Channel Q here at the Hard Rock Hotel in New York with a very busy guy, especially this Pride Month, David Archuleta. Hi, thank you for coming.
Hey, thanks, Corey.
Excited to have you here in New York. We spoke the last time about a year ago, and man, things have changed a lot for you in that year. You've had a really busy year, especially a busy summer. What's it been like?
Yeah, I guess I'm getting more and more into the Pride Month spirit. With each year that comes through. The first time I was like, is this bad? Like thinking, like coming from a religious background, I was like, you're not supposed to be prideful. But now I'm like, oh, it's after being ashamed all of this time of who you are and now finally loving yourself and celebrating it and being proud of who you are. It's a great feeling.
Well, I would be remiss though if I didn't mention the fact that you've like accomplished so many musical goals and milestones in this amount of time, right? Like you're performing on Good Morning America. You've just announced a tour where you're going to be supporting Pentatonics. You've got the new song. You put out so much music. Like it's been kind of amazing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's kind of like a second wind to things, which has been really exciting. And I did some dance remixes of my song just recently too, because I've been going to more EDM shows and DJ sets and it's raves. It's been fun.
And well, I was going to ask you about that. You got some flack on social media for attending an EDM festival at EDC and like for doing what people do at festivals, which is like dancing, having a good time. You dressed like people do at festivals, yet you still had to like defend yourself. Was that frustrating for you to have to like enter that kind of discourse online?
I think just having to, you hit these like places of life where you have contradicting content that you're putting up from who you were before. And the people that related to you on certain things. Like I used to be very conservative and very modest and very religious. So now the things I'm doing are like bashing with what my previous fans and what I connected with them before. They're like, that's not the David I know. That's not who I followed. That's not who I was following before. And so you get a lot of disappointment or just like people don't know what to think and a lot of people unfollowing. And sometimes I take that personally. I'm like, well, I don't want people to unlike me, but I also have to be realistic and like, that makes sense. You know, I'm not this, I'm not posting of when I would go to the Mormon temples pictures in my church clothes anymore. I'm posting shirtless at a rave, you know? So it's like a bit of a shock for people. But sometimes you get people who are just like, I'm disappointed in you. And I think I'm just like, instead of taking that personally, I think explaining it helps me clear it out in my mind that I don't have to be ashamed of what I'm doing. I don't have to feel bad. I have to just help people understand I'm not who you thought I was. Yeah. I mean, I am who I am. It's just I've grown up, I've changed, I've evolved.
Right, absolutely. I want to talk about Held Together. Your new song. I have to admit, listening to it, I got a little misty. Aww. There are some really powerful lyrics in that song. Can you tell the Channel Q fam what the inspiration behind that song is?
Yeah, so it was inspired by a conversation I had with my mom after I came out. When I first came out to my mom, I told her, hey mom, I'm going to start dating guys. And she said, I love you, David, but I love God more and I can't support you in this decision because she said that she testified that marriage is between a man and a woman and that's what God's plan is for me. And I said, Mom, like I get it. I believed the same thing up until a week before this conversation. And but I said, I don't need you to accept what I'm doing if you really feel like it's going against what you truly believe in your core. I just want you to respect that I'm doing what is the best thing for me right now. And she said, okay, I can do that. And then a year later, I was still, even though I came out, I was still going to church. I was still a practicing Mormon, Latter-day Saint. And it just got to a point where I'm like, this is way too much. This is too conflicting. I'm trying to like show people, trying to help my community understand what it's like to be an out person, a queer part of the LGBTQ plus community. And a lot of people still were very closed-minded and it was just affecting me too much. And I know there's some other queer people who still go to church but for me, I just couldn't do it. There was just too many things that weren't connecting. And I felt like this doesn't make sense, and I need to just take a step away from it. Yeah. And when that got announced, it got announced in People magazine, and I wasn't expecting that, but I didn't hear from my mom for a few days after that article came out, where like David Archuleta leaves the Mormon church. And I thought, oh, she's so upset with me. I pissed her off. And then she texted me and she said, I've decided to step away from the church as well. And I was like, Mom, oh, you don't have to. I'm like, I know how much the church means to you. You don't have to do that if you feel like you're just trying to like align with me. But she said, I don't want to be somewhere where my children don't feel loved and welcomed. And if you're going to hell, then we're all going to hell with you.
What a remarkable like show of support that it sounds like, based on previous conversations you had, like wouldn't have expected something as strong as that.
No, I wasn't expecting it. No one in my family was expecting my mom to do that, because we're just like, what? Mom is the churchgoer trying to get us all to go to church with her on Sundays. Because even after I came out, my mom would be like, hey, come to church with us. And I would go, but it got to a point where I was just like, Mom, I can't. It hurts me too much to go. Like, it messes with my head. Yeah. Like, makes you wonder, like, cause you're told so much, like, God loves you. But then it's like, but he hates this part. He hates this sin, and you've got to change this. And it's like, wait, but I don't feel like I need to change that. I've received confirmations, and I feel like spiritual experiences where I'm whom I'm supposed to be. Yeah. So like, how do I go into church and like be told and scolded and try to be taught to be ashamed of who I am?
Right.
When it's like, I've finally become happy and proud of who I am. I don't want to go back to somewhere where it's trying to teach me to be ashamed of something I don't feel I should be ashamed of.
It was emotional listening to the song, so I can only imagine how emotional it was to write the song and to shoot the music video. What kind of emotions were you going through as you were getting this experience on paper and on film, being like, whew?
Oh my gosh. It was very emotional because I love a lot of the things about my religious upbringing. I loved the people, like they're my friends to this day. Still, a lot of them are my good friends. I was one of my really good friends. I was one of his best men. Groomsmen. One of his groomsmen in his wedding, and like, they're still like my family and stuff, and they're like they don't understand why I made my decision, but they also are like, we're starting to understand. Like, we get why you left, and we're so happy for you, and it makes me happy. But it's also like, it wasn't an easy thing to do. I'm not the kind of person where it's like, F you all, like, I don't care about y'all. It was like, I'm gonna miss this.
Yeah,
I'm gonna miss y'all. I don't know what I'm moving into. Like, I didn't know anyone in the queer community. I had 2 friends that were out that I could talk to. And I was just like, so what am I getting into? Like, what do I do? Kevin McHale, like, he's talked about it too. I would call him. I'm like, so what is it like dating a guy? Like, I have no idea. Like, what happens? What is it like being intimate with a guy? Like, what are the things I should be worried about? Like, I have no clue what's going to happen. Is it like weird? Am I going to feel funny? And he was just like, don't hesitate to ask me anything. You can ask me anything. I really appreciate him as a friend. But with Held Together, sorry, I'm getting sidetracked, but it was kind of like, it was like a goodbye, kind of like, goodbye, thank you for the memories, but I feel good about where I'm going. I had a dancer there kind of symbolizing unconditional love in the form of like my mom. Yeah. Olivia is her name. And she grew up Mormon too.
Wow.
And I didn't know that. So she's like, when I heard the song, I was bawling. She's like, I could relate to it so much. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so wild. Like, I didn't know she was Mormon when I hired her. So I grew up Mormon. She's not Mormon anymore, but yeah.
Amazing story, especially like not knowing that. And I'm sure that happens so many times where people listen to your music and they've got a deeper connection that, do you think about that when you're putting out a song like Held Together? Like, this is going to reach people who have this experience and don't, but there are other people who like, wow, this is their story too.
Yeah. I saw so many stories, especially from people who grew up Mormon. Like, there was this Instagram video of this couple, these 2 women who had gone to BYU, the Mormon college, and the Latter-day Saint college, and they met, they fell in love, and they got married, and now they're like they've been together for, I don't know, like 20 years or something. I don't know, but it was just really beautiful. And they put this montage of their whole life story to the song. And it was just kind of cool to see that a lot of people have felt like it wasn't easy for them to choose to be themselves and love who they love and leave behind everything else that they knew, their community, sometimes their family and their friends. And so it's that they're like, to have this statement of like, fine, we'll go to hell together. Like, it's like, wow, like to see how people have taken that and how it's become their journey and story and their anthem in ways has been really special.
It is so profound. It blows my mind. You were talking about, talking to Kevin and figuring out some nuances of being in the queer community. I wonder if, going back to a song like Crush, when you perform that song, does it feel different to you now that you've had like a different experience and you've found yourself in your sexuality and are dating and feel things maybe a little bit differently than you did before and have some clarity about yourself?
Yeah. I felt like I was always, this Crush is about having a crush, or maybe it's something more, like you're falling in love with someone. And I never allowed myself to really open that up because I felt like if I opened up those feelings, the bad feelings would come, which were feeling those feelings for the same sex. So I was like, I have to like hold it. Like I've got to have control over it. And now that I don't feel, I'm still learning how to let go of it, be okay with those feelings. It's been a process, but now it's like, oh, this is what everyone could relate to when I was singing the song. Because at first when I would sing it and it was like a huge song for me and people would be like, oh, I played it for my girlfriend, or I played it for on this date I went to, or my future spouse. And it describes perfectly what I was feeling. I was like, I don't know what that feeling's like. Yeah. I'm like, good for them. But I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. I get it. And I get that, the feeling of like the rush and like feeling like you want to see someone again. And it's nice. I didn't fully feel it until my 30s, but
yeah,
I'm glad I did eventually.
You were talking about, being new to the queer community. And now I feel like in a short time, you've become like a social media staple, but also you're performing at Pride festivals across the country. What's it been like for you to now have like immersed yourself in the queer community as an entertainer?
It's been so fun. I've gotten more loose on stage.
Yeah.
I've had dancers. I like to just rock out and it's been really fun to create more songs that just are more celebratory. Because all the songs before I felt were so serious and very heavy and like very analytical, introspective, which, was good for that time. But now it's just nice to be in a place where I'm like, I just want to sing songs that are fun and are going to make people feel good. And yeah, Pride shows are so fun because everyone's just like, yeah, we're here. And it wasn't easy for I feel like most people at Pride shows and people who attend have a story where it's like they got to the point where they were comfortable being out and at a Pride festival. And it's just fun to share that energy with a group of people.
For the people that you've seen at Pride shows and people you interact with, and maybe allies in particular, why do you think it's important to support the queer community with things like that, especially during these times?
Well, I feel there are a lot of people who are finally in a good place being queer, part of the LGBTQ plus community, but a lot of people are still having to wrestle for their place in life and in their community or in their workspace or in their families. They're still misunderstood. People still feel like it's okay to judge them and belittle them and to shun them. And one of my friends I went to EDC with in Vegas, another Electric Daisy Carnival. And I was camping and he was like, yeah, I haven't spoken to my family in 4 years. I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, when I told them I had a boyfriend, they stopped talking to me. I was like, not even for Christmas? He's like, no. And I was just like, I can't believe that. It still happens and people still will say snarky things and be like, oh, there's that, you're just part of the LGBT agenda. And it's like, so I feel like to have a space where you celebrate and still like it gives strength to each other within the queer community to be like, hey, you're here, we're here, and you're not alone. I think that's such an important thing to remind yourself, be reminded of, is that we're not alone, and especially as queer people.
Yeah. Having gone through kind of a roller coaster in the last couple of years, what advice would you give to someone who is struggling with coming out or maybe afraid to come out or deciding if they even should?
I mean, I feel like it is a very scary thing, and every person's circumstances is different. I didn't come out until I was 30, and some people come out later, others come out sooner. And so I would just say, be patient with yourself. But I will say, if you're struggling with those feelings, I'm wondering, I feel like it is so much more freeing. It is so much more empowering. You gain a new confidence when you finally are able to make that choice, when you feel ready for it, and when you feel like you have people to talk to. I feel like that's a big thing too. It's like when you feel like you have someone safe to say the words and say like, hey, I think I might be gay, or I might be queer, or I might be trans. And then like, am I going to be accepted? Am I going to be loved? Am I going to have support? Because those are other scary things that people want to know they're going to have when they come out.
Yeah.
And not everyone has a guarantee of that, but going online is really helpful. There are there are websites, like Trevor Project, and I mean, even Reddit, where you can just go and talk to people and ask them questions. Or for me, I had Kevin, where it's like, how do I navigate this now? I don't know how to. But there are definitely resources out there, especially online, that I hope people know that they can start asking questions. Or YouTube, when I was like, what is is there really such thing as bisexual? And I started looking up YouTube videos and seeing like, oh, okay, there are people out there who are also, they're somewhere in the middle, and they don't know exactly, because it's not always 100%. It's not black and white always.
Right.
It's not 100% gay, 100% straight. People can be somewhere like over here, or in the middle, or over here. And that's totally fine too.
I would imagine for so many people, you are that inspiration to them, or that safety net, or that not just with you being able to share your story and the emotional parts, but also just like posting on Instagram that you're having a good time, right? Like, you made it, you're living your best life. I'm sure that's really inspirational to a lot of people, especially seeing this, listening.
I hope so. I mean, it is. It's so fun to just have a good time.
Yeah,
and live
right?
life.
Isn't that why we're here?
Yeah. Like, we don't know how long, life, you never know how long you will be here for. And I'm just grateful to be here every day. And I'll be like, how can I make the most of my time here and my day? Because there was a time where I didn't think I deserved to be here.
Yeah.
And because I thought it was bad to be queer. So now I'm like, well, there was a time where I didn't think I deserved to have another day, and now I'm so grateful to just have one. And I didn't think I would be here, so what can I do? Like, what experiences can I have now? And let's go to, an EDM fest. Let's go to a concert. Let's go to the beach. Let's go to the gym. Let's see how hard I can working out, or go to a club and just dance the night away, see if I meet someone cute,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, I have to ask you, I read recently that you are working on or thinking about a memoir.
I am.
What a remarkable next step for you. I feel like you've obviously written songs about your story, but writing a book is another level. How has that been for you as you start going through that process? That's a lot.
Yeah, it's been, I've come near the end of writing it.
Oh, wow.
For at least with the first pass through it all.
Sure.
And it's been difficult because a lot of times to talk about who you are now, you have to go back into your past, things you've moved on from already. It's like, oh, that. And you have to talk about the things that you still haven't fully processed yet. So it's really weird. It's things about your past that still scare you, the child in you, that it's I never processed this and I moved on from it, but here it is again. But this has made me who I am. And, navigating back where it's these are the first times I remember feeling queer. And it was before puberty and things, it's how to to help people understand what it means to be queer. Because a lot of people think, oh, you just one day as an adult decide to be gay, and if you're gay, then you're a pervert. And it's like, well, actually, like since I was a kid, it's like you'd start feeling like, oh, I'm different, but why? Like and no one explains to you what it is. Like at least back then, like especially being in like a kid in elementary school in Utah, where it's like marriage, you marry your wife if you're a man, and that's the end. You have lots of kids and happy ever after. And it's like, okay, what do I do if I don't fit what I'm being told? And this doesn't make any sense, but I'm too little to know that there's such thing as a different kind of sexuality than just straight. But yeah, it's not just about my queer journey. It's about life in general and American Idol and all these other things. And I'm excited to teach people about my life, and hopefully it'll help people a little bit better on their journey, especially with coming out, especially if they grew up religious like I did. That's the biggest goal with it.
Was it cathartic for you writing this stuff? Like saying you haven't processed it, has it been helpful to get it on paper and be like, oh, okay, this happened, and whew.
It has been. Yeah. And sometimes it's just like, it's kind of, I think what's interesting about it is you realize certain things that happen in your life, even though it was a long time ago, how much it still affects you.
Yeah.
And in the back of your head, it's like, oh, it was just like one little moment, but it's like, it's still like, it affects the way you think, the way you act, the way you believe. And so sometimes you have to look at it. It's like, why did this affect me so much? Even I was a 9-year-old when this happened, or I was 12 when this happened. And it's like shaped my whole perception of other people and life. And it's weird. So, but it's been healthy to try and process. I haven't been able to process all of it, to be honest. I need to go back to a therapist. It's been a minute since I've seen a therapist, but therapists are great to have an outside perspective. But anyway.
One of the things I think about whenever I'm reading like memoirs is like, how did this person remember this conversation that happened, or all the details? Was that like, I think about that as if I were to write one, not that anything interesting happened in my life, but like, how do you remember all these little intimate or intricate conversations and get it on paper?
Yeah. Some memories are just like so clear, and maybe some that because you've talked about them so much throughout life. At least that's how it's been for me. Because there have been some things where I'm like, I don't remember all the details. So I've called my siblings and my parents and my grandparents. I'll be like, hey, this is what I remember of this. Like, can you give me your idea? And then like, we start like building all of it together. It's like, oh yeah. And then this happened. Oh yeah. And then that happened. And it's like, okay, thanks. And then I go back to writing.
Yeah. How do you take care of your mental health? You talked about going to therapy previously. What do you do on a daily basis to keep your mental health in check?
Yeah, I go to the gym. I feel like physical, when you have all these emotions in you, it's like, I'm feeling a lot of things right now and I don't know how to process them. So I go to the gym and I just like, that's where I get like more my aggression out, or just like all this energy. I need somewhere to put that energy into. And one time I did therapy and it was a smash session, like a smashing.
Oh, wow.
Like just got a hammer and I just started with like, I bought stuff from the thrift store, like vases and a microwave, and I was and I'm like, where did all this energy come from? And it was pretty interesting. Yeah. And the therapist is like, see, like all this energy, you had it in you and now it's out. Now it's there. Cause I was like, I feel bad doing this. She's like, why do you feel bad? I'm like, I just feel guilty for being angry and like hurting something. And she's like, is this object alive? I'm like, I don't know. But it's like, I felt like I always had to hold everything in, but now it was just interesting to see like, wow, okay. Like it's good to put your energy into something, whether it's working out or painting or cooking. I'm not a good cook. So I that's not a great place for me to put energy. So I go to the gym. And I'll call my sisters, like when I'm driving and I just have a lot in my head, I'll just like call them like, hey, so this is what I'm thinking about. And just so I can gain some perspective. Yeah.
David Archuleta, congratulations on all the success. Excited for what's to come. Excited for the book.
Thank you.
Congratulations on everything. It's been really amazing to watch your journey and to listen to the music and to see you over the last year and now to meet in person. And excited everyone here gets to hear your story.
Well, thank you. Thanks for letting me share my story.